My business card says you're in luck. I do two things, and rabbit fighting is one of them. Welcome to another episode of Rabbit Fighters. It's a podcast, that's for sure. This week, we're going to be exploring the 1979 classic send-up of organized religion and unquestioned belief, Monty Python's Life of Brian. Is it as controversial now as it was back then? Is it still relevant? Is it still funny? Was it ever funny? We're going to try and find out. I'm Joshua.
I'm Brian.
And I am Greg.
Well, let's get right to it, guys. Greg, you put this one on the list.
Yeah.
And Brian, you had not seen Life of Brian until this week. So if I may, what the hell, Brian? How did you miss this?
Well, just because the movie bears my name means I should fucking see it.
Yeah. I would think like 11-year-old Brian sees a movie called Life of Brian. He goes and sees Life of Brian.
It's like when you go to those, like tourist shops and they have the keychains with people's names on them and you're like, oh, that's me. My name's on the keychain. I'm going to buy that.
This is the one with the Knights of Ni, right?
Correct.
No, that's not that's the wrong one.
The Shrubbery or whatever.
No, all the famous stuff.
I mean,
the other one.
Because you have seen Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
And I would assume you enjoyed it because it's Holy Grail. I mean, who wouldn't enjoy Holy Grail?
For it? You didn't care for it.
I'm kidding.
Tell.
Yes, it is the only one. It is the only one I've seen. I've seen Holy Grail a number of times. I never really dug into the Python stuff, like whether it's Flying Circus or. I mean, I know they only had a few feature films, but I don't know. I think when it's kind of one of those things where probably intentions were to see it at some point, and it just never got around to it, I guess. So, despite the fact that it had my name.
So just like laziness is basically what you're saying.
Purely laziness.
Just laziness. You're just like, well,
Do you have a Monty Python blind spot?
Yeah. I was thinking about this the last night as I was watching this. And I know that they're a huge influence on a lot of stuff, even something like we talked about last week with I Think You Should Leave. But I find the kind of the high-low comedy that they have, the things that I find funny are kind of the subtle pieces and not some of the hit you over the head with gags. And so I don't think it's like my sweet spot for humor, whereas I enjoy it. It's also, but not something that I would probably like return to a lot. And I do find like I found a lot of parts funny, but the parts I was kind of like, all right, move on. All right. Like the big nose stuff and the biggest dickus. It's like, this could go on for 10 minutes, it's like, it wasn't that funny, but.
Well, Greg, this is obviously a classic for you since you have stated you're a huge Monty Python fan and you put it on the list. So what's your history with Monty Python growing up and such? How'd you get here?
Yeah. No, I had a friend in high school. He was one of my best friends, and he was like, hey, you got to watch the Monty Python's Flying Circus. And PBS had it on at Sunday nights. And so I would always like pretend I was in bed. I'd go to my room, and I had this shitty little TV that I saved up my money to buy. And I would turn this shitty little TV on and watch it and when I was supposed to be asleep. And I'd watch Monty Python's Flying Circus, and it was like this little dose of like shit that I wasn't supposed to be doing. I wasn't supposed to be watching this stuff, and I wasn't supposed to be awake.
Dead parents, lumberjacks.
Yeah, and some of it was like an acquired taste where you're like, there's a lot of constable jokes. And like, like talks about the minister of some British government position, and you're like, I don't know. But then some of it is like the cheese shop where they, or the dead parrot sketch, or like the bookshop where this guy comes in and he wants Charles Dickens with 2 Ks. the well-known Dutch author. And like that stuff was funny to me. And then I watched the movies from there. And I think the first one I saw was the Meaning of Life. The Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And then the Life of Brian. And the Holy Grail I loved. It was like just crazy. And the Life of Brian at that point and at this point is still my favorite thing that they did. I was like, this is the most fully realized thing that they've done. It's very British too. Like it's got like, men dressed up as women, cross-dressing is like a British staple, comedy staple. It's got super literate jokes like the the conjugating the Latin verbs and the wall graffiti, and then it's got stupid jokes like biggest dickus, like it's high low, and it's got basically everything, and it has a coherent story, whereas the Holy Grail, it's just like it's just fucking thrown together, and the ending is like they all get arrested at the end for shooting the historian. You're like, what the fuck? Like everyone who watches that movie who thinks it's funny still reaches the screeching end of it and goes, what the hell
Yeah, it's a little unsatisfying.
just happened? Yeah.
I completely forgot about the ending.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting because Holy Grail was, that was their very first, feature film, and Terry Jones co-directed it with Terry Gilliam, and
Yeah.
they both sort of professed to learning how to direct on the fly with Holy Grail,
Totally.
and it sort of shows.
Yeah.
Whereas Life of Brian, they sort of agreed to part ways and let Terry Jones do the directing, and Terry Gilliam sort of begrudgingly go and do a few scenes and cinematography and things of that nature. So yeah, I definitely think Life of Brian had a more cohesive look and feel than Monty Python did, or Holy Grail did.
Yeah. It's got more of a story too. It's talking about more. I mean, the Holy Grail is just like, you take a historical thing and it's just a coat hanger for like a bunch of bits. It's like really nobody expects them to find the Holy Grail, or it doesn't matter. The whole point is have a through line sort of where they could just fuck around, and then it sort of holds it together. And then you could tell, because at the end they're like, you could tell I have no idea how to end it, and they're just like, I don't know, they all get arrested or something. We got to get the fuck out of this thing. We have no more money. It's just have some people dress up as cops. But yeah, the Life of Brian, they have a plot, and they have something to talk about. They have something to actually say in the plot, rather than just having it be a device for bits.
And what a plot it is, I guess. Sort of addressing the elephant in the room is one of the most controversial films to ever come out of the UK. Banned in Norway, banned in Italy, banned in Ireland. There's a town in Bournemouth that banned it up until 2015.
Banned in Norway.
Yeah, I think I had read that Sweden actually took the opportunity to be like, so funny it was banned in Norway as an opportunity for advertising.
Nothing says we're humorless fishing culture rather than banning the Life of Brian.
Well, Brian, so this is your first time seeing it. I'm not sure what you had known about the movie going into it, or what to expect. Certainly, I'm sure you knew a little bit about the controversy surrounding it. So how did it strike you? Was it particularly uncomfortable, or could you see how it was so controversial? Like,
it's funny, growing up, I remember vividly seeing the VHS cover for this in the store, like the blocks, or whatever. And I never really thought to watch it. I mean, I didn't really know the plot or anything like that. So, and as someone who, which is funny enough, raised Catholic, I guess,
me too.
Could care less. I mean, I think it's funny. I am not a religious individual, but I can certainly see how, like, as Greg mentioned, anytime you mention religion or screw with it or some sort of thing about it, like, people are going to go ape shit. But like, I did think, in some of the criticisms about it, it doesn't really strike me as like blasphemous. I think it's poking fun at the people who follow these things blindly, and not so much of just like what the religion is. Like, he's not Jesus. He's the guy. He's just got birthed in a manger 2 doors down, it's just the life of this guy just always being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So to me, it's like just using the religion part as kind of the vehicle for the absurdity of all these, like, one of the running gags I thought was hilarious when they're like, finding objects and they find the gourd. And it's the like there's anything, like grasping for straws to worship anything. Yeah, it's like a sandal.
We too shall carry one shoe in the air.
Yeah. yeah, I'm sure in some cases that it's tiptoeing the line very closely in some of these things, but it is funny just the religious like zealots, and even like with the guys who are all like, what are they, the prognosticators, all doing like
all the
random
prophets,
shit in
yeah.
the alley.
Yeah, all the prophets. Exactly. Yeah, it could be
like,
anyone.
Yeah, it's like, oh, pick your prophet, whatever you're just follow whoever. They're all just looking to follow somebody for answers.
And the thing is that what gets me too, what everyone is so upset about this movie, all the religious people are upset about this movie. They think of that though. They're not stupid. They think of that. There's this old Seinfeld episode about where people think George and Jerry are gay, like they're and I remember reading an interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and he's like, it's like a funny episode, but like also we don't want to like make people feel like we think being gay is bad, because like it's not, and we need something. And then somebody came up with the line, not that there's anything wrong with that. Every time someone's like, they think we're gay, not that there's anything wrong with that. And Jerry was like, that's how we do this episode. That's how we get away with this episode. You know, that line, that's it. Because it's like it levels everything out and is like, we don't really feel like it's bad. You know, we have these hangups and we have to freak out about our hangups. This movie starts with the wise men and Jesus guy with the John Cleese blackface. I'm like, oh my God. I hadn't seen this movie in a while. He comes into blackface.
Hasn't aged well.
Like, oh, the British, they really don't fucking get it about stuff like this. But I was like, all right, they're not like making a thing about it. He just comes in and they're not doing this like horribly racist stereotype of a black person. So okay, they're British and they're just having them walk in. I mean, they got the gifts. That's pretty funny. There's a bit of bomb, you know, and then like, you know, they come back and grab the gifts and push her over, and then they go a couple doors down, and there is like a Star of Bethlehem shining over, and there's like a golden light coming down upon the manger. So like at the beginning of the movie, they're saying, like, here's the real Jesus. That he does exist in this movie.
Yeah. Just as described in the Bible.
Biblical Jesus.
Big neon lights.
Right here. That's not what we're talking about. We're not saying Jesus never existed or that anyone could have been Jesus. They're saying, here's Jesus, and here's another stooge who gets involved with idiot zealots who want to follow him anyway. You know, like, so all the stuff that happens after the first scene, the religious people are all up in arms about, is all been like, not that there's anything wrong with that already at the beginning. They did that. They figured it out right at the beginning. They're not stupid.
Yeah. So I assume, Joshua, you've had a history with this movie, or of some. You strike me as an individual who would love this movie.
You know, so this
wrong. I fucking hate it.
This is the first time I've seen it in quite some time.
Yeah.
It's probably been about a decade since I've seen it. But I grew up on Python, watching dubs off of TV of Flying Circus on VHS, just over and over and over again, and then finally seeing Holy Grail as a middle schooler, and just thinking that this changes everything comedic wise. Like, this is just the funniest thing that has ever existed. No, I can very clearly remember that moment that I sat down and watched Holy Grail, and just thinking, this is it. Like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire very short life. But I have less of a recollection of like the first time I saw Life of Brian. I know I definitely watched it a bunch in college, and that was definitely during my very like anti-religious phase in college, where I was all about like finger to the man and living in a very fundamentalist sort of area. And so Life of Brian really spoke to me.
You had the like Life of Brian in one hand and Dune in the other, just standing outside the library.
My two commandments. Fuck you.
You're all individuals. Watching it now, like, 10 years since probably the last time I've seen it, in preparation for this and doing a little bit of research on it, I think I have a lot more appreciation for it just as a work of art, and the controversy that they went through, like sort of learning about a little bit more in depth about that nuance that you were talking about, Brian, with it being, is it blasphemous or is it merely heretical? Are they really thumbing their nose at God and Jesus, or are they really just thumbing their nose at people who believe things unquestionably? unquestionably.
Yeah.
So sort of digging into that, I even went so far as like to watch the entire like debate that they had with like the cardinal and this British Christian broadcaster in 1979 after it came out, like an hour-long debate on air, like an after-hours show, which, by the way, just watching something like that, it got me thinking, like, this is why we can't have nice things now. We can't have like controversial movies come out now and people just go on air and
Totally.
debate them. It just seems like everyone's at each other's throats, but we'll save that for another time. I thought it was very quaint, a quaint idea to have filmmakers debating theologians about the merits of their film in front of a live studio audience, and nobody died afterwards.
And if you get a hold of that clip, check out the host's suit. It's pretty stellar too.
I think he was responsible for Jesus Christ Superstar or something like that. The guy who was actually moderating. I read.
Really?
So.
Was it Andrew Lloyd Webber?
No, not responsible on that. He was like. He played Jesus or something in one of the productions.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
trying to picture this. Trying to picture this. He's like, "Hello, I'm the moderator, Andrew Lloyd Webber. Perhaps you know my work, Cats."
So in watching it again, I actually was sort of like pleased to see like the manger scene. Jesus on the mount.
Yeah.
Even like the leper, the former leper who was cured by him.
Ex-leper.
Yeah, the ex-leper. So to their point, like they handle Jesus as a very, kind of clean subject. Like he's there. We're not making fun of him. We're not making fun of anything around that. We're just like using that as context for this is the time we're living in, and here's this poor guy over here, Brian of Nazareth, who just happened to be born at the exact same time and is unlucky enough to fall into all these pitfalls of life during this horrible time period.
The jokes about Jesus, they're like, he's speaking in the mouth. They're like, I can't hear him. Like, it's just this basic stuff. Yeah. It's like, can you hear what he's saying? Did he say this? Oh, no. He said that.
Yeah, all the jokes about like, the misinterpretation of, like, blessed are the cheesemakers. Right. Oh, any purveyor of dairy products.
But someone could go and leave that session and write it down, and it could become gospel because he's like, I heard it from Jesus, and Jesus heard it from God.
Yeah.
So like the whole focus of like religion being absurd is like the misinterpretation by regular people, and then they just run with it, like they just go nuts.
And I think that's the uncomfortable point that I think that the religious folks at the time who found this really, really, controversial and offensive were not being honest about. Like they knew they weren't really making fun of Jesus and God. They were boiling it down to that because that's the stronger argument that's going to get more people to follow you. But really what was they were being made uncomfortable about was the fact that all the people who believed this way back when, and like that's the foundation of it all, may have misheard it. And so that calls into question, the last 2,000 years of belief, which I think is the point of maybe not what Monty Python was getting at. They were more making fun of just how religions form in general. But I think it's shown. It made me look at the controversy in a little bit of a different light than I did back when I, watched this film, quite a bit in college.
Yeah, they're not making fun of Jesus. They're not making fun of religion. They're making fun of idiots and zealots. And guess who got upset about this movie? Idiots and zealots. Like the people that wanted to ban it were like, they saw themselves being mocked. And it's like, well,
but the whole thing plays out because as they ban this film, then there's these factions of people that I wrote down. There was like the Citizens Against Blasphemy that formed to like these movies. It's like they're doing exactly what you're talking about.
Playing it out in real time.
Form these little gangs and
I know.
Get this thing. It's like you're proving their point.
And it's funny because it reminds me of that scene with the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, the Judean People's Front, the People's Front of Judea. And like, the one guy who left the group, and they're like, splitter! It's just like, it's how some of these like religious factions open up too. We're like, one guy left and did something else, and now that gets followers, so
and that's definitely something I didn't get like when I first saw it, because that was like poking fun at British politics in the 70s, leftist politics specifically, because they'd all break into tiny factions. That's a piece of British history I wasn't aware of, didn't have any connection with.
Yeah.
I just took it as, they're making fun of like resistance movements and how disorganized they are.
But it also applies to religion too, you know, these breakaway factions of religion. You know, like, I mean, the Anglican Church, this guy just wanted to get divorced. So he started a new church. He's like, the church doesn't let me get divorced, so I'm starting a new church so I can get a divorce. Like, how is that a good reason for a friggin' religion? Like, that's
be surprised.
That's just some guy doing stuff. But now, like, people fight wars over crap like that. Like, oh, no, one guy wanted to get divorced, so he started a new church. And now the other church that's exactly the friggin' same, except you can't get divorced, hates our church, and we hate them. We're going to start a war, you know?
And nobody gets wolf nipple chips in that scenario. Nobody wins.
Get them while they're hot. They're lovely. When they're hot, you got to get them while they're hot.
Looking through the trivia for it on IMDb. Like, some of it was like so stupid. It was like, well, jaguars' earlobes and ocelots' tongues. Those are New World animals, and they wouldn't have been discovered until the 1500s.
Not a serious criticism.
It's such a stupid goof.
Yeah, but like, why don't we talk about some of the bits we liked? Like, because you know we've talked about some of the.
But favorite scenes. I know you guys have already. Well, Brian did. He kind of shit on this scene, but I think the biggest dickus scene is really funny.
I think it's freaking hilarious.
It is funny. But it goes on pretty long. I mean,
I thought it was funny to begin with, but then I did some reading about it, and it's even funnier because all the extras, all the Roman extras who were trying not to laugh, they were ordered, do not laugh under any circumstances, and not told what Terry Jones was going to do or say. So they were honest to God trying not to laugh and couldn't control themselves. I think that just takes it up a notch in brilliance. Like that's so fantastic.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think Biggest Dickus is freaking hilarious. It's just all the stuff he says. He's like,
he has a wife, you know.
Strike him, Centurion, very roughly. He's like, and from the Forza, what? And throw him to the floor.
That one I like. Yeah, the way he smacks him is like.
And then when they do the free Roderick, you know, it's like, I'm to do Roderick. Yeah. Free Roderick. Free Roderick.
John Cleese is totally trying to, like, you don't want to give it a miss this year. Like, the crowd's in a weird mood. We should just not do this, right?
Yeah. He's like, you seem very sure. He's like, it's a joke, sir. It's a joke name, sir. Like, Silliest Sodus or Biggest Dickus.
What's the real name? Was his Naughtiest Maximus? Or
Naughtiest Maximus, yeah. Centurion dad's name. It's a joke, sir. It's a joke name, sir. That scene makes me laugh like hell, man.
I do like that they brought Biggest Dickus in at the end.
I know they really have one.
Yeah, Graham Chapman is like with another speech impediment.
Yeah, a lot of speech impediments in this. I see even that kind of stuff. I don't think they would get away with. I mean,
no.
I feel like there's everything about this movie is getting canceled.
I mean, for Christ's sakes,
we've gotten more conservative as a country. You know, if it can be imagined, we've gotten more conservative as a country than we were in 1979.
Well, I mean, it's just a different climate. I mean, they sought out to offend people. Like, that was like the jokes. They were honest to God trying to offend different groups because it's funny. To the point where Graham Chapman, when he died at their funeral, they had people singing in a Chinese accent.
Yeah.
That shit would not fly anywhere in the world today. But that was like very common in the 80s and 70s, apparently. It's an imperfect but still surprisingly nuanced, I would say, comedy in many respects. Still lots there that's problematic that would not get made today, and hopefully, I don't know, doesn't detract too much from it in the future. But
I mean, the one really harmful stereotype I will say is aliens, man. I mean, like the aliens get really jobbed in this. You know, I mean, it's an eyeball and a hand. I mean, come on, how much more stereotypical can you get?
Just makes no sense. But it's like space fight.
That's like
you know.
Terry Gilliam explosion, where he's just like waiting in the wings, and they finally open the cage door.
Put me in,
and let
coach.
Terry Gilliam in. It's like falls up. But I remember in 8th grade or whatever watching this movie with my friend Mark and us just laughing our asses off at that entire friggin' sequence. I didn't think it was as funny now, but like it has jokes for all kinds of age levels, and like, you know, that was one of them.
It is ridiculously random.
It's super fucking weird.
I remember, this is going to sound really weird, but I remember forgetting that scene. Like, I remember I must have seen this movie at some point earlier, and I remember that scene, but I completely disassociated it from the movie as a whole. And then I saw it again later in life, and that scene came on. I was like, I didn't imagine it. There really was like an alien in the middle of this, out of nowhere.
Got the eyeball in the hand. It's just like it's so fucking weird, and he's about to die, and they rescue him, but he gets in an interstellar battle.
Apparently, they literally had no idea how to get out of that situation, because he was being chased by the Romans, and he goes up that spiral staircase that's being built, and they wrote themselves into a corner, and they had no idea how to resolve it.
Aliens.
And so Terry Gilliam just came in and was like, "Alien swoop in," and like, do it.
I got it.
And that's how movies get made in the 70s. Just fucking aliens, man.
Totally. You never know. I know, that's such a funny, bizarre scene. And like I said, you know, that in 8th grade, it just pissed my pants laughing at it.
that one really hit in 8th grade.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, we're circling back to bits that I thought were funny. That I really like the haggling scene was funny to me. I like when they work in like everyday things.
Yeah,
really
the haggle was awesome. 10 for that? You must be mad. It's like, you were going to give it to me for free.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw in this
Eric
gourd.
Idle.
He's like, what?
Always
that
brings
guy gourd.
Eric Idle's awesome. Man,
I know.
So
I think he's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I think.
And I like when he's the prisoner that he keeps playing jokes or whatever. He's like, I'm Brian. They let him down. He's like, oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He's like, when they were like, you know, assigning crosses to people, and he's like crucifixion, and he's like,
he's so uncomfortable.
He's like crucifixion, and he's like, no, letting me go, freedom, or whatever. And he's like, oh, well, that's nice, isn't it? Like, no, just joking. Crucifixion. Oh, you had me. Yep, one cross, one to the left, one cross each.
I love Michael Palin in that scene as the Roman who's so conflicted about the whole thing. He's like, what a waste the sense of life, and just treating everyone with like dignity and respect while he's sending them off to crucifixion. But he's
doing it anyway.
He's just a cog in the machine, but he'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah, it's so
I think
funny.
one of the biggest laughs I get out of the entire movie, and it's such a dumb thing, is during the stoning scene where the women all are wearing beards because women aren't supposed to be there, and Eric Idle, like, he's being like
beards,
outed as not supposed to be there. He like changes the tone of his voice in mid. It's like, sorry, I thought we'd started.
John Cleese is awesome.
Always
too.
kills. Always kills.
John Cleese stops and says, like, "Are there any women in here?" All women.
They're all yelling high pitched, and they all stop at the same time.
No.
God, that's such a funny scene.
Beards are the shittiest looking things on earth. You know, like they wouldn't fool anybody. That's so
and
funny.
Eric Idle trying to sell rocks. Stoning. Got them lying around out there.
Yeah.
Like
gravel.
This one's pointier.
So gravel
and shit.
Oh man. I think the movie is funny as hell, and the ending is like the perfect friggin' ending. It's the good ending. Like the
it's a good.
The Holy Grail falls off a cliff, and this one is like everything leads up to the ending, and it's just, you know, it's just points out like how fucking random it is that someone gets punished and someone else doesn't, and someone's considered the Messiah, and once you're considered the Messiah, they want you to die because they need you to be the Messiah. They need you to die to be the Messiah. He's like, there's no one. Oh, look, Judith, she's going to help me. And she's like, I think it's so great what you're doing for the movement. So great. Just being a martyr.
I used to find that last scene so irritating.
No one will help him?
Just cut him down. He's right there.
Yeah.
And then no one will help him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like as I've watched it over the years, that definitely resonates a bit more.
But because like, and I always think about music when I think of this, because everybody wants this Kurt Cobain scenario, right? Like nobody wants Kurt Cobain to get to be 60 years old and put out shitty albums and become, do a duet with Fred Durst, and you're like, oh my God, you ruined.
How rad would that be?
You ruined my whole opinion of you, and now I can't even listen to Nirvana albums anymore. Like they want you to die, like they want you to go out in this horrible blaze of glory, and then they can go back and
I don't.
Like they, well, but they're all
to retire
people
comfortably and
that's
knowing he's done a good
they
job.
still talk about Nirvana. Like
none of that would be a problem if we just enacted my 4-album ban.
I mean,
damn it! It always comes back to the 4
like if you think about Weezer, if you think about Weezer, right? Like everybody's so mad at them for surviving. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but like people love martyrs. Like if someone is emotional and they strike you in a certain area, they want people to just stay the same, and one way to do it is just by dying really young, and then they can never disappoint you. And I feel like this scene has that in it, where you're like, yes, if we cut you loose, you could disappoint us, and we could find out that you weren't the Messiah or that you weren't this martyr for the cause. We could find fallibility in you, but like, yes, die for the cause, die for your fans.
Are you saying Rivers Cuomo should have died?
If he had, everyone would still be talking about, oh, can you imagine what he would have done if he'd survived? Oh, he's the voice of our generation. Instead, he's like
the Teal
doing
album.
Yacht parties for money and like shit, and everyone's like, I hate him for surviving and continuing to play music.
We're gonna save this for the Weezer podcast.
I feel like you can. I think it makes for a fun conversation to shit on bands or whatever, but it's like I can separate the first 2 albums that are greatness from the rest of the lot and just never listen to them. So it's like but it only makes it's funnier if you're then like, well, they suck now, and
you're not the kind of person who needs someone to die to be like a voice of your generation. You know what I mean? There are plenty of people that do, though.
No, I mean, I just need Steely Dan to be the voice of my generation.
Voice of the
so what you're saying is
this generation.
If Jesus of Nazareth had lived to a ripe old age,
everyone would he would have screwed up stuff and done stuff, and they would have been like, oh my God, he's doing all this stuff we don't want him to.
We like your earlier work.
The Blue Album was so. The Fishes and Loaves. What is it? He just keeps repeating that same Fishes and Loaves miracle over and over again. Like we're so tired of it.
It'd be like when you were a ska band with your 12 other people on stage.
Yeah, right, exactly.
with all the apostles, yeah. It's a ska band.
It's just called the Apostles.
Jesus and the Apostles. Wait, now we're gonna get canceled for all I was talking about. For creating a ska
acknowledging
band.
that he exists. It's fine.
Man, I am absolutely certain that already exists somewhere in the South. Some church has a ska band where it's just Jesus.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything.
I maintain there's a lot wrong with that, but
Judas on brass. What do you want? I mean...
Yeah, he feels like a trombone guy.
I always pictured him more of a saxophone guy, but that's just me.
Oh man. Okay. That's the part we cut out. Well, like, what else are we going to talk about here,
guys? Keeping that in. What are you talking about?
All right. Do we want to rank it, or?
It is good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think it's about that time. How does Life of Brian stand in you guys' eyes? Is it the Messiah, or is it a very naughty boy?
I'll let Greg go. I feel like I always end up having to throw my grade out first.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for me it's an A, like a solid A. Maybe an A plus for a comedy anyway. For me, like for what it's supposed to be, this semi anachronistic, very irreverent take on our society now, the society back then, the state of politics, the state of religion, the state of zealotry and factionalism, all that stuff. They just stomp all over the place on stuff that needs to be stomped on, in my opinion. That's why I think this movie is an A or maybe even A plus. For me? It hits.
Is this your favorite
hits
movie?
everything
Is
out of
this
the park.
one of your favorite movies? Is this in your top 10?
I don't have a favorite movie or a favorite song or a favorite album or a favorite band. Like people always ask me this stuff, and I'm like, no, there's too much stuff. Like is Michael Jordan better than Usain Bolt? Like, no, they're just different. So there's just stuff that I have high regard for. Well, yeah, what was that face for? Yeah, like
No, I get it. I get it. But I was also
You're
like, we're talking about films.
You're like,
so
what?
It is basketball players,
but like,
players, so.
Sure, is Do the Right
he's not.
Thing better?
One's a track and field
What?
star. What are you talking about?
It's one's
No,
a
that's
track
what I'm
and field
saying. 'Cause
star.
I'm not
Oh.
asking to compare.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
in
it's like,
movies.
how do you compare? Yeah, how do you compare them? Like, is Do the Right Thing better than The Godfather? Like, they're both good. They're both great movies. So I don't really have a favorite movie. I judge them by kind of like the genre. Like I said, Top Gun Maverick is a great action movie. Is it a great movie? Is it like one of the best movies of all time? Like,
Certainly better than I
but,
could make. But
yeah, but as an action movie, it's a friggin' A. Like it does everything right as an action movie. This does everything right as a comedy, for me anyway, and as a social commentary. And I do, and I've said before, really appreciate it when people bring social commentary into comedy and mash the two together and make it more than just jokes. Have it say something. Josh,
no, okay.
what do you think?
It's
Hold on, Brian.
it's definitely an A.
'Cause Brian has to go last. Yeah.
I'd say it's definitely an A. I actually don't like it as much as I like Holy Grail. If I'm honest, like I get more pure enjoyment just from Holy Grail. I don't know why. Maybe there's a little bit more history there with me, a little bit more nostalgia. But I do think that Life of Brian is an important film. It's an important piece of art. It's an important piece of social commentary. It's an important, I think, theological statement. And it's just funny. It's just hands down funny. I do feel like there are some missteps in it and some things that haven't aged well, and probably some things that can definitely be considered offensive today. But I also think that ultimately what they're trying to do was really important. And so, yeah, that's an A for me.
Nice.
Guess finally got an
All
A
right,
out of me.
Brian.
Yeah.
As the namesake, you're picking the keychain off the tourist shop wall
The
and
license
taking
plate
your
keychain.
Brian keychain. Yeah, exactly.
Are you
Hey,
saying,
that's me.
are you saying I'm the
So you get-
Messiah?
You get-
Are you guys gonna start following me?
Only if I can have your sandals.
No, it's too
What?
cold where you
Sandals?
are. It's too cold up there.
I'm gonna give this a B plus. I think I would like to. I think I could see it a couple more times, and I'll piggyback off of what Joshua said. Like I've seen Holy Grail a number of times, and it's
Yeah.
more quotable in my head. I can think of the bits in it that it's just probably, like I said, the only one I've seen, but I've seen it quite a few times. But I think this one might grow on me too. Like I said, I did find a lot of the little things funny. I think I'd probably catch more every time I watched it. I typically don't love British humor. I know that's like a polarizing thing sometimes. Like
Broad, sweeping statement. Maybe the most maybe the most controversial thing said tonight.
Mr. Bean? What about Mr. Bean?
Exactly.
He's,
Point taken.
he can't even speak. It's so funny because he
got a
doesn't
turkey
speak.
on his head.
With turkey on his head. Who does that?
But there's those people that fucking defend that shit of like British, faulty towers. Like I've heard about all these things about, that kind of stuff. And it's people. There's some
Yeah.
people that love that shit, and I just don't really seek it out because I'm not like a huge fan of British humor.
I only like my Britons to be villains.
Yeah, it's from space. If you're a bad guy in space, you've got a British accent.
This movie would have got an A if a spaceship didn't show up in it.
Oh, come on.
I'm just joking. No.
Terry Gilliam. It's his
I'm
only
kidding.
The only
thing.
American who was responsible for that part.
I'm kidding. Was he in the jail cell scene? I was trying to find like what characters
He was in a few. He was the guy again with the speech impediment during the crosses when he's like,
Oh, right,
crucifixion.
yeah.
He's the guy who's all dirty and stuff. He's one of the
Kind of like Neanderthal.
Yeah,
He's one of the
background.
prophets.
Yeah, he always
who's
plays.
got like mud caked all over his face and he's screaming like the loudest.
He always plays like a sleazy maniac. Yeah, he loves playing that part.
I think he's also blessed are the cheesemakers, like the one of the guys in the crowd who first misinterprets the Sermon on the Mount.
I freaking love that scene. Cheesemaker.
I think he's in comparatively fewer scenes than the rest of the Python guys, but
Yeah, he's in very few. He never was in very many scenes. He was the animator.
I was saying,
They
I
stuck
love
him in
his little
scenes
like
every once in a
cut
while,
stop animation
playing
stuff.
nutcase.
I love Terry Gilliam
Yeah,
films,
yeah.
so I hope at some point we get to talk about Terry Gilliam a little bit more in depth than
You
a
could throw
podcast, because
you could throw Brazil on there. I've never seen Brazil.
we're doing Brazil then.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, Brazil. I've seen Brazil.
I
Yeah.
have not seen Brazil.
Shit, it's going on the list. That'll be number 30.
Time Bandits.
I haven't seen
Time
Bandits
Bandits. Oh my god, another
Oh,
classic.
Time Bandits.
We're just going to turn into a Terry Gilliam podcast.
Everyone leaves. True.
No way. We had him. We had him at Jesus and the Apostle ska band. That was. Someone's gonna steal that. I know it.
We got to work that into the title somehow. All right. On that,
Hey,
session is now closed. This movie is now graded and ranked in everyone's hearts and mind.
Ranked. It's been weighed. It's been measured, and it's been found mostly not wanting. All right, Joshua, you got the
I got
die.
it ready to go. I have the Rabbit Fighters randomizer here. We have 29 items on the list. 30 if you want to put Brazil in the number.
He's like,
30
and I
position.
will. I'll be putting Brazil.
He's just telling it already.
But no,
Time Bandits 31. If
I
you're
don't think we're
doing
going to do a
Time
Terry
Bandits.
Gilliam movie right after a Monty Python movie. Yeah, I feel like we need an album in here next, but we'll see. We'll see how it
What
goes.
say you, randomizer?
All right,
What
ready?
say you?
Here we go. Hitting the macro.
12 Monkeys.
21. Oh, 12 Monkeys is so good. Do the right thing.
Oh,
Do the right thing.
Aforementioned.
All right. Aforementioned.
All right.
Also, I added that one.
That is a great
Yes.
pick.
It is a my pick.
I have seen it so long ago, I do not remember anything about it, so I'm saying I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Brian, I think you're in the same camp.
Brian's never
yeah.
seen
I
it. He's
remember
never seen
starting it.
Yeah.
I just never. I don't remember. I don't think I got through the
Didn't
whole
finish it.
thing.
Who directed Do the Right Thing?
Spike
Lee. Okay.
Early Spike Lee. Yeah. It was like his third
All
movie,
right.
I think. Yeah. Way early.
Do you think we can afford to get the ending to afford the always look on the sunny
bright
side of life or whatever?
No.
Yeah, the bright side of life.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
get that to play us out. I wonder how much that costs.
More than the three of us will ever be worth in
Yeah,
many lifetimes.
that to that point, that is a very great fitting ending.
That song is friggin'
Well, they're all just
gold.
dancing on the,
Yeah.
the crosses.
Life's a piece of shit when you look at it.
All right.
I feel like we couldn't
That's
end
so
the podcast
fucking
without
funny.
talking about one of the most famous things about the movie. So
Always look on the bright side of life.
See you next week.